minutes after 8 o'clock into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And we continue to engage with our audiences around the country and indeed around the world. Education has been a top ticket item for very many months. It just continues to stay in the limelight, especially with the release of KCSE results yesterday. And the buzz is around the Ministry of Education in terms of what it will do about some of those issues. And we're here for it this morning, continuing to talk about that. We will have a further education conversation this morning. And even as we get into that, got to remind you that Cradle.com is where you need to go to register. And you ask me, register for what? Well, the first of its kind Cradle Study Abroad conference is taking place in Nairobi on the 18th of January. And it's also taking place in Eldoret on the 27th at the Eka Hotel. Well, can you tell us what students can expect? Sure, you can. You can expect that world-class universities will be in attendance. University representatives will be there. You can ask your questions. They will confer with you. They will let you know the best way you can go about to secure a student visa. They will let you know what to look out for when you're approaching the time where you need to talk about your university education. They will tell you the best places to go for the courses that you want to study. And it's not just a one-time, wham, bam, thank you, man, flash in the pan kind of thing. You'll be there for the whole day. It is a conference, and you can have an opportunity to talk to these guys face to face. And there'll also be the battle of the university destinations, so you can actually make your choice of where you want to go. How'd you get in on this action? You register to get an invitation, www.cradle.com. And you can also give them a ring on 0799. Well, not give them a ring, but give them a call. 0799 000 444, and somebody will be able to tell you what to do, how to register. The Parklands, in Parklands on the 18th, that's at the Gallant Mall in Nairobi. And on the 27th at the Eka Hotel in Eldoret. And that's what you want to do to get there. And for folks who've not been able to make the connection, then with skills and talents and opportunities, the KCB Foundation Tujajiri program says, we have an option for you.
And the option that KCB Tujajiri Foundation has is of ensuring that those who've dropped out of school or have gotten into university, into colleges, and do not have jobs and whatnot because unemployment is a problem in the country, the foundation says, come, we have a solution for you. We will take you through a system, take you to these TVET institutions, upskill the skill that you already have and improve on that, give you all this information on how to start your business. We will give you a mentor who will hold your hands and push you towards making sure that your business thrives. And as we talk about this, we talk about hundreds of thousands of people who've gone through this initiative and are actually doing well. Let me just take you through that. That is, they have created 150,000 jobs, 555 trained 35,195 youth, incubated 10,954 youth, and disbursed 267 million shillings loans to support the enterprises, and issued 2,225 startup toolkits, and trained 6,535 businesses on financial planning. And as we keep talking, we say they not only do that, but they equip you with tools of trade and ensure that even when you leave this exercise, you leave this initiative, you are able to go start your business, go become a mentor, and let your business thrive. All this information, you can get it at kcbgroup.com/foundation.
Amazing. This hour, we're talking about CBC, and we're looking at helping parents and teachers understand the CBC learning model better. And we're joined by a CBC ambassador, Benson Wabogo Wakamau is here this morning, and he is already in the hot seat. Good morning, Benson.
Good morning. My name is Wambugu Wakamau.
You don't like the Benson?
I don't use it.
You don't use it.
Your brand name is Wambugu Wakamau. If you say Benson Kamau, some people will wonder who is that.
Okay.
I'm officially known or commonly known or AKA Wambogo Wakamau.
Wambogo Wakamau.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us in the room this morning. We're going to be looking at a couple of things. Of course, my first question is going to be how you become a CBC ambassador, but we'll talk about that in just a little while. As we look into matters education, let's welcome you in proper situation room style with today's proverb. And Siti will do that for us this morning. You will tell us what you think about the proverb and how you would interpret that. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. This country is Kenya.
Yes.
And the capital of Kenya is?
Nairobi.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes.
Since when? Yes, the capital of
When I was in school. Yeah. Nairobi.
Yes, it is Nairobi.
Yes.
It continues to be Nairobi.
Yes.
However, in 1889 to 1907, it wasn't. The capital actually was Mombasa.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenya wasn't called Kenya. It was called British East Africa Protectorate.
Yes.
Yes. So, things change.
Indeed.
Who knows? We may yet have another capital. The proverb for this week, the proverbs are from Kenya and they are in the Kiswahili language. Kupotea njia ndio kujua njia.
No.
Yes. What does this proverb mean and what do you think it is trying to tell us?
The proverb says that when you don't know the way or you ukipotea njia is you lose your track to where you are going, you will struggle to get the way, and definitely you'll get to the place you are going. So kupotea njia ndio kujua njia. So when you make a mistake, you may be able to correct that mistake and do it better. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Fantastic.
Super, isn't it?
I think so.
Thank you. You got it spot on.
It's apt that we're talking about education this morning because now it's learning.
Yes.
Looking at CBC, let's start off with Wambogo Wakamau is a CBC ambassador. What's that and who makes you a CBC ambassador?
First and foremost, I'm an education goodwill ambassador. That's where I started. I've been a mentor, life coach. I'm still a mentor, life coach. And I deal with education. I love education. As you all know, nothing can be achieved without passion. So that is my passion. And if you want to be relevant, you need to go with the times, the way things are going. So when CBC came, people fear change in Kenya, not in Kenya, everywhere. There was a paradigm shift. And since people fear change, and personally I was dealing with 844, I realized I will be irrelevant if I don't do something with the CBC. So I started following up, reading, going to KICD. In fact, since 2017, I've been following it up. And I realized it was a good model for the country. And from that moment, I started following it up. Now, come last year, there was a lot of confusion, and I went to my TikTok account and started talking in a contemporary language, in a language where Kenyans understand. And I was in a garage, and I told parents, this year there is no KCPE. The grade 8s will go to grade 9. And then I got a lot of response. That small video was viewed by around 400,000 people in a span of 2-3 hours. And then I realized people are blank when it came to CBC. And I took that initiative and decided that I'll keep on giving information to people as a patriot. You remember the story of Wangari Maathai and the hummingbird. When the forest was burning, big animals were not doing anything apart from the small hummingbird that went to fetch water with a small beak.
Yeah.
And then the elephant complained and said, your beak is very small. You're carrying very little water. Do you think you're going to put this fire off? And the hummingbird said, but don't you see, I'm doing what I can where I am. And this big elephant was doing nothing.
Okay.
So as a hummingbird, in my little capacity, as an ambassador of education, now transformed as ambassador for CBC, I started giving people the information they have. And you know, we are in a country whereby even the constitution, they were saying, kama baba amesoma, na amesema ni mzuri, iko sawa.
Okay.
So this time, I don't know if baba aliwasomea. So me, I read, and I started now giving little information.
So
here
you're the
and there.
baba?
So I became baba
Okay.
in that area.
What do you understand about CBC as the curriculum for the country's education system now? What do you understand about it?
One, I understand CBC as competence-based curriculum that has come to help our children acquire their basic right, which is envisaged in the Constitution, the basic education. That this CBC is better than the old 844 system because it's an international curriculum, number one, and number two, is a curriculum which will deliver a child from grade 1. In fact, they start from PP1 to grade 12. And it is exciting. It helps a child love education because they focus on practical rather than theory. The content that they're given is better than 844. You remember 844, they were given, there was a mismatch between what they are taught and the job market, what it required. For example, you are taught parts of a grasshopper, and yet you wanted to become a pilot. You are taught about Vasco da Gama arriving in Kenya. You are taught about Majimaji Rebellion. How can that bring food on the table? With CBC, they are given an opportunity to do things, and they are taught skills which they can directly help them in day-to-day living. And then the best thing about CBC, it has the core competencies that makes a student become an all-round student. And again, it also removed that aspect of examination that when KCSE is announced, the whole country goes to a standstill. And those who get A's are recognized, and those who get E's are condemned. CBC came and solved that problem. And the people are still in the previous regimes, KC 844 system. That's why they were complaining that KEPSEA is not yet released, and yet we are told to take our children to school. KEPSEA is an assessment, is not an exam. They are not issued any certificate from grade PP1 to grade 9. The only national exam they will do is in grade 12 because of the obvious reasons. Reason that is to transit to university and colleges. And that exam, some students might get double certification. For example, if they went to a pathway which is technical and they acquire a certain skill, they can also opt to do an exam with CASNEB, NITA, other bodies, and get now a certificate from grade 12 to World of Work.
Okay.
That's why I love CBC.
Okay.
Now, Wambuku, you talk about CBC being a great thing. We agree. But however, CBC has to be accompanied with the investment in making it be a success. The government in terms of retooling teachers, in making sure that they're able to handle these construction of classes. But this does not seem to be the case on ground. And even as you talk to parents in terms of accept CBC, fine. Parents will accept CBC, but they're taking their children to institutions that are not ready for them, in the sense that there is swimming class, yet I am in a school that only has a ground. How do I get this skill? How do you convince such a parent that CBC is good?
If you're a parent and you give birth to children, I know your firstborn baby, you made a lot of mistakes. Personally, I remember when I got my firstborn baby, we used to take turns to watch that baby. We would not sleep. But when we got our thirdborn, sometimes we forgot. We would find her down under the bed sometimes because we were used to that. There are so many challenges that comes with change. and we are in Kenya. And you know, as a country, sometimes the government, they have what we call misplaced opportunities. There are some things they do very fast, and they're not very important. And there are others which are very important, and they don't do them very fast. So those are challenges that are there. But when you are constructing a house, if you have the master plan, in the process of building that house, you realize there is a lot of confusion, there is sand, there is, stones, they are everywhere. It looks like it's confused. But with time, everything goes to its rightful place, and you'll see a beautiful house after some time.
How much is time? CBC was brought into the fore about 5 years ago now, going into 6 years. I think the first class, from the time it was introduced, we have the first class that entered into the CBC now going to grade 9, started grade 9 this year. How much time is enough to implement a new curriculum that is handling the education of children who, interestingly enough, don't have time? They've got 9 months in the year, 10 months in the year to go through education. How much time is enough to implement a new curriculum?
With time, there is no, I cannot tell you that 9 years is enough, depending on how the government has prepared itself. But as I said, in our country, there are so many challenges, not only in education, also in other sectors. So that is a question that is beyond me. I wish I could answer that question. In fact, Amina Mohammed said it articulately and said that we are not ready for it.
Absolutely.
But again,
and she was vilified for it.
Yes. But again, I also praised
her. Now we
see what she was
that
saying.
she was right.
Yes. But again, when you have a vision and when you have a big dream, sometimes you don't need to see. If you're going to Mombasa at night with a car, you don't need to see the road from Nairobi to Mombasa to get to Mombasa.
You just need to see what's in front of your nose for that moment?
20 meters with the light. And then slowly you get there. Because the way it
actually helps to have the long vision of where you are going and what you are trying to achieve. So that brings me to my next question. What was CBC as an implementer curriculum trying to achieve, or what problem was it trying to fix from your view? And maybe that can help us see this long vision that we need to have with education, unfortunately, as one of the fundamental pillars of a nation. We're talking about the majority of its population vested in this age group.
Yes.
What was it trying to solve? The introduction of a new curriculum. There was a problem.
Yes.
What was it trying to solve?
One, the issue of dropout because of exam. You realized if you failed KCPE, you will not go to the other level. That problem was solved. The issue of rote reading, cramming.
Sorry, the issue was solved because now you had 100% transition, or what? How was that solved with CBC?
With
the dropout
CBC,
issue.
They're not interested with content, but competence. They're trying to see the competence of a child.
The two go together.
They have to go hand in hand.
Yes.
Because the competency has to be based on something, and the something is content. Yes. So there has to be content
and competence.
Yes, and because that's how we measure your competence. This is what you're taught. That's content.
Yes.
In whatever area, whatever subject, and then you display whatever knowledge you're supposed to display based on what it is that has been presented to you.
Yes.
The two have to go hand in hand. You can't do away with one. Yes.
Yes.
So we go back to problem. What was the problem that the introduction of an alternate curriculum was trying to solve?
The issue of exam, I've said. There is also the issue of the mismatch between what they are taught and the job market. Yes. And also some values that were not there in 844 now are inculcated in the CBC. For example, the core competencies like communication, communication and collaboration. We have the core competencies like also things like critical thinking and problem solving, imagination and creativity, and also involving parents. You know, 844, once you get to school and pass your exam, okay. But with the CBC, the assessments that they have, there are some assessments which are called formative assessments, which they assess every day, and summatives assessments like the KEPSEA and others at the end of the term. And those ones help in identifying the child's competence. And those are the things that I think the government looked at and decided to change the curriculum. And also 844 was a system that was overtaken by events.
Such as?
Because like now in CBC we have digital literacy. People are they are being taught using digital. They are sent home to do something, to Google and all that. We are moving from analog to
what's
digital.
the percentage? I just want to ask a question to understand. What is the percentage today of children who are in this system, in schools around the country, who will go home and be able to engage in digital technical discourse at home and then come back to school with the results? Today, we're talking about gadgets, we're talking about internet connectivity, we're talking about assistance from parents at home. Today.
Yeah. A very small percentage, I will maybe give it like 45 to 50%. And it's the way our country is when you look at the public institutions, because there are people, in fact, as I'm speaking to you, they do not have electricity connectivity.
I'll disappoint you.
Yes.
It is less than 16% of the total population of school-going children today. And let's use the public system as an example, because that is the purview of government. It is less than 16% of the children that you talk about who are given a digital assignment will be able to go home with the assistance of their parents to be able to have that assignment done and come back to school with a completed assignment. Now, if we're talking about techniques that will help to implement a curriculum, sadly, we can talk about the need for having a comprehensive curriculum, but the implementing techniques are extremely important. You'd rather not have the curriculum if you do not have the implementers to make sure it works.
And I will just go back to the 844. I happen to be the first initiators of 844. When 844 started, there were lessons in it. There was music, there was arts and craft, there was home science, there was music.
There was agriculture.
There was agriculture. I remember Kimale Primary School going to plant sukuma wiki and cabbages. I remember. But as the implementation progressed, some of these were dropped. As we speak today in terms of CBC and its implementation, what stops it from going back to 844? If investment is not there in making sure that the implementation of CBC actually works.
That's why we are here to try and help parents understand CBC. We want as a country to try and sensitize people the importance of CBC. It is a good curriculum, but that is the challenge is there.
The challenge is the implementation.
Implementation is there. We cannot run away from it. But again, we cannot also just sit there and see the forest burning and just sit and criticize.
But was the forest burning with the 844 system? Because we talk about it not meeting needs, and yet that 844 system, from the time it was implemented, if you read and found out about it, there are very many things in the CBC that was in the 844 system, just that it was never implemented. So the two questions arise. One, did we see the 844 system meeting the needs of people who went through it? In many ways, yes. Were they able to move ahead in their lives because of the system? The answer is yes. And the proof of this pudding is students who were in the 844 system. Did many of them qualify to actually go abroad and compete with other people internationally? The answer is yes. Did they excel? Yes. So, there were issues with the 844 system, yes. And the same issues have come up now. It's called implementation, which then begs the second question. why did you not just add the things that you felt were lacking instead of overhauling the entire system? Why?
And when you talk even in terms of the digital literacy, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government was to provide free laptops. Isn't that the digital capacity that was lacking in 844?
It was lacking then, it is still lacking
now.
Yeah. I agree with all what you've said, but the damage has been done. We are in
Actually,
CBC.
no. Actually,
Yeah.
The damage hasn't been done. Not really. You are right when you say the CBC, as it is documented, is a good system.
Yes.
So there's no damage there.
The damage I'm saying is that now we cannot go back.
Of course, who
The
says we
previous-
can't?
The way we left it.
Actually, who says we can't? Who says we can't? I mean, what is this thing that prevents us? This very expensive undertaking of starting something new, and yet you had something which worked. What stops you? These books that we've now sort of like presented,
For grade 9.
have you looked at those books and looked at the content and asked yourself how different that content is from what people who are learning in Form 1? Have you had a look at it?
Yes.
How different is it? See,
They
there's
have
a-
integration.
There's a point I'm trying to make. The fact that you introduce a few chapters to say we are going to do this thing differently doesn't make the content different.
Yes.
See, what you want the children to understand is something fundamental, and that is something that was agreed upon a long time ago. The process of the CBC was always beyond us in terms of implementation because it requires a lot of money, to put it very simply, a great deal of money, which we don't have.
Or at least not ready to put behind it.
Yeah.
I'm saying we don't have. If we have places in this country where people are learning in places like that, and this is a public school where it's some mud attached, whatever, the floor is muddy. Public institutions, how then do we leapfrog from this and suddenly have everything
Digital
that we're talking-
libriaries,
How?
swimming pools,
How?
agricultural
How?
workshops.
How?
do you have, home economic rooms? How do you
the,
do that?
The very fundamentals that are required, classroom, 1, 2, teachers, to cater for the needs of whatever it is that you're supposed to learn. Fundamental. If there's a problem with that fundamental, how do you then...
Go to these secondary issues.
Yes, how?
Let's take a break on that note. Wabugu Wakamau, even as we do come back,
Yes.
there's an understanding of what the curriculum is.
Yes.
But further to that, there's an understanding of how it will be implemented, and then just trying to get parents and teachers. So how do we see this moving forward? We're going to take a break and then come back and continue to discuss this. We're looking at CBC, working with parents and teachers to really understand it. Will it make a difference as we go ahead? It is 25 minutes to 9 o'clock. Our conversations continue after we take a look at weather and traffic. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. It's boosted by caffeine for fast relief of strong pain, like headache, toothache, and muscle pain. And I am finally released from pain and ready to be there for those who need me. Try Panadol Extra for fast and effective relief from strong pain.
Dreaming of shopping online from the biggest stores in the US and Europe? Now, it's easier than ever to get those items delivered to Kenya. Shop your favorite brands on websites like Amazon, eBay, and Zara. Then sit back and relax. We'll deliver right to your doorstep in Kenya. Rapid Courier has partnered with Standard Courier to enable you to shop globally and get your purchases delivered locally anywhere in Kenya. Our fast and reliable delivery service ensures your items arrive safely right to your door. Sign up today and start shopping online from the US and Europe with delivery to Kenya made easy. Shop global, delivered to Kenya. Sign up today on rapidgroup.com and start shopping globally.
We value your feedback and welcome your comments, queries, and complaints regarding our content. You can get in touch with us via SMS on 22151. Call 0719012450 or email feedback@standardmedia.co.ke. Our PO Box number is 30080-00100, Nairobi, or deliver it to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi.
reconnaissante pour la forme de mes jambes, mes compagnes énergiques qui me portent rapidement jusque la salle de classe. Et mes pieds, vous me soutenez des dessous. Parfois, je marche sur votre chair.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to the top of the hour. CBC Ambassador Bogo Wakamao is with us this morning, and we're trying to understand it. So I'm going to, hazard a few things here. When CBC was introduced, it was like you entered into a swimming pool that didn't just have water. It had all sorts of other things inside. People wondering, what are we going to do here? People are coming home with assignments. People are being asked to bring things. Others are wondering, okay, so we were in school before. People would come home, do the assignments. We go back to school tomorrow. We're done. At the end of the day, we do an exam. They tell us where we've scored. Then we move, right? It seemed pretty cut and dry. Now you're telling people to bring chicken. Others are being told, color this, print this, take pictures of yourself, brushing your teeth, making your bed, doing all kinds of things. And so parents were like, okay, I pay school fees. Huh? This child goes to school. Huh?
Yes.
Now you're telling me now, on top of that, to now sit and do things with this child. We're looking for manila paper, scissors, all sorts of things.
Yes.
Didn't understand.
And I've paid school fees
for this same thing to happen.
To learn in school.
And then they come and learn at home again. So why are we doing this? You see? So I can understand where the understanding needed to come in. So what understanding do we need to hear from this? Bring a loaf of bread, bring potatoes, let's fry chips, buy all sorts of things, and I've paid school fees. So this was a confusion for a lot of parents when they were like, what on earth are we doing? And then before we even get out of the water, we are now going beyond that, where we are saying, okay, even after that, then we're going to have junior secondary school. Junior secondary school, we're in high school, but we're going to remain in primary school. Then we leave that, and then going to high school is not necessarily just going to be high school where all the subjects are studied, but you will then go to a STEM school, which essentially is a science school. And then on the other hand, you go to a humanities and arts school, so you can then choose. Before, you just used to stand up, wear uniform, go to school, pay school fees, write exam, come home, we finish. It complicated it in the minds of parents a lot. And in the minds of teachers as well. Teachers were teachers, whether we want to accept it or not. They were like, oh, for goodness sake, what are we doing? Why was it so confusing, you think? Because
of lack of parents changing their mind. There is a big paradigm shift. The way you're talking, you have that 844 mentality. It has been with you for a very long time. 35 years is not a joke. And when we tell parents, learners, engagement, and we talk about that core competence called critical thinking and problem solving, we are actually, CBC is trying to impact some very essential life skills that were never there in 844. And when we talk about practical, like using a potty, in 844 they would draw a potty in the blackboard, and the child would learn theory about using a potty. But in CBC, you take that potty to school and you're taught how to use, so that the learning outcome of these two learners, one can write a composition about using a potty and the other one can use it well. Just like when you're traveling in the aeroplane, there is that lady who tells you, in case of emergency, there are two doors here that will open. Do you know they have never seen them open? And they don't know how they open. But they tell you, they give you that information.
They do during the training.
They do. They are trained.
Yes.
When the plane
is on the ground. But the passengers personally have never seen them open anyway. And I'm there
if
for
they
customer.
opened, then you'd be in danger.
If they opened while the plane was in movement, there would be a spot of trouble.
Very good.
Don't want to see it open.
You are even rejecting my example. It's okay. We also have somebody being trained how to drive. In 844, even some people were trained how to use computers without a computer itself. In CBC, you have to have it. So,
but we don't.
I
and
think
that's the problem.
You've actually got
You've
the heart
hit
of
it
the
on the
matter.
head.
Yes.
You've actually got it to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
Had this problem been solved earlier,
Yes.
and the equipment had been provided in the 844, this transition that we're talking about would have been so much easier.
Yes.
Because the equipment would have been there. And by the way, just so that, let me repeat it again. The 844 demanded similar things of their students. Believe me. The practicum. Parents would complain. What is this thing you're asking us to build at home and then take to school?
Yes.
I used to be a teacher, so I'm speaking just from a point of view of experience.
Yes.
When the 844 was introduced, I was actually a teacher in the secondary school. And so I'm actually familiar with what was purposed, what was intended, and then the outcome. What we saw over the years is not what was intended.
Yes. But now, Madam, I want to say that what you're asking like a real Kenyan. And this is a challenge we are having in implementing CBC when parents complain like that because they just want to pay school fees. Somebody told me, I don't want to know whether they're being taught CBC, IBC, or CRB. Provided I pay school fees, I want them to learn and I do my business.
Yes.
But we don't want that disconnect between parent and a child.
But what is
What is parenting?
But what is so CBC wants to help parents
Parent.
No. To engage the child, to teach them how to learn.
Then what are they
So
doing?
why are they in school?
They're in school to learn, yes. But again, there is that bond between parent and a child.
So you're saying it doesn't exist?
It used not be existing fully because, you know, as long as you can do exam, it's okay. But
so
this
now we're
one
saying
is
that
engaging.
CBC
is engaging.
increasing the bond between parents and children by virtue of the fact that they do assignments together and they're now
Yes,
trying to
and that one helps in critical thinking and problem solving, imagination and creativity. You tell them to swim where there is no swimming pool. They can
I
think
can see
about
how creative that's going to be. We've seen pictures of just how creative you can get to swim in a pool where it doesn't exist.
Let me read something. There's a gentleman called Irongo Amos who has written this to me and says, we cannot call the lack of preparation and investment in the CBC a challenge when children already in class battling with a curriculum that even teachers hardly understand. I am a teacher and I can confirm that learning areas like music, art and craft science, home science, life skills are largely not taught. Equipment is also lacking. Is it essential to risk the children's future with such a system? That is somebody who listens to the show and contributes, and that is their view. And they're a teacher, even as we speak.
And even yesterday, when the results were launched, I had a teacher at the show at KTN, and this teacher told me direct that even when this transition is happening, they are not ready to receive these students because they have not been retooled. They do not know what is coming for them.
Yeah,
that is a teacher.
That's a problem.
So therefore, if that is a problem that we agree, then why is this CBC being rushed, being shoved down the throats of parents and students and even teachers?
Because it's a good curriculum, and I believe the end product is good for our country.
You know what? Antibiotics is good medicine if you have an infection of the bacterial nature. Right? But it is not going to solve a problem that is not of a bacterial nature. If you suffer from a viral infection, you cannot treat it with an antibiotic. And I think this is where we missed the boat. That we were not paying attention to the problem and what needed solving. I don't think there's dispute that the CBC is a good curriculum.
Yes.
I look at very many elements of it and how they're actually distributed in different global education systems. And it works very well. That competency allows you to look at the world in color like this, as opposed to tunnel vision where I have to study one subject and pass an exam.
But in 4 dimensions.
There you go. 4-dimensional, and you can see the world like this. That's what it allows you to do. But the problem was not that you needed to invite a new curriculum, that there were fundamental issues, and now you're treating a problem you're treating a problem with a solution that is not going to cut it. And that's what I'm saying. It's a good curriculum. Antibiotics are good medicine, but you cannot treat a problem with the wrong medicine. And so I think that's where the problem is here. And then how do you circle back on some of those things? Nobody argues that, yes, you would like to have a child by the time they finish grade 12. They understand things about physical education. They understand agriculture, and they're able to apply it to their lives. But have you put in the implemental markers? If you haven't, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive. It's counterproductive. You would rather not even have touched it in the first place. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. If not, don't touch it. And I think this is the problem that we're facing. This is the problem that we're facing here. So it could be a fantastic curriculum. Could have been implemented in many places in the world and probably is already. But if you're not ready to do the legwork to have it implemented, let's even say 85%. Let's not even ask for 100. Okay, fine. Let's say 50. If you're not able to do that, you'd rather not touch it. And I think this is what we're dealing with. That's why it's so difficult to explain to parents. This is what you need to do, because they're like, where are we?
Okay, you see now, when the damage is done, there is something I call a triangle I use to solve problems. It consists of PLA, pathognomonic analysis. Pathognomonic is a term used by veterinary doctors when they are treating an animal, because animals cannot talk. So they observe, and they can tell this out of observing, they can know this, what is ailing the animal. So as a country, we need, and as also Kenyans, we need to look at this situation and analyze it. And once we analyze it, we go to the L, that is logotherapy, healing through reason. Healing through reasoning. We reason together that it has been done. How can we move from this point from great mess to greatness? It is possible. I am a believer of impossible is possible. And then there is something I call ambidexterity, the ability to write with both hands, the ability to change, and the ability to do something you have never done before. And I believe, as a Christian, that it can be done.
You do know that what we're talking about here, the lives of children. And their welfare and also their future, and in so doing the future of the country. And this is not something you experiment with.
Yeah.
All the opportunity to ensure that the implementation was workable has been possible. What was the rush? What was the must? What is this thing that was going to happen to the country if this thing was not implemented after some care, thought, piloting, and so forth? What was going to happen? Because we are now trying to implement it, and we can see the problems that we are encountering. These are huge problems. And what makes them monumental is that there are lives that are going to be influenced and affected permanently as a result of what we are referring to as the goings-on that we currently see.
Because the implementation has been done. It has started. It has moved.
Okay.
I want to say that even Jesus Christ was born in a cowshed in a manger, but he never became a cow. So
because he wasn't born a cow.
He
wasn't born a cow.
Yeah, but he was born in a cowshed in a manger. I want to connect with the damage has been done. We are here. Let us forget about, you were talking very well about if it was implemented, if now it is there. How can we join hands? No, the question is how can we join hands?
It hasn't been implemented. You see, this is the point.
We are trying. The government
you're
is
saying
trying.
It has been implemented, and I'm saying it hasn't.
Okay, let me ask a question. That let's see the implementation. A child who is in grade 7 today, in the CBC system, is, if we can carefully use the word equivalent, is equivalent to a child who finished class 8. Okay?
No.
Yes.
No.
A
Grade 7 is grade 7.
No. I'm looking at what happened in 844
Okay.
and what happens now in CBC.
Yes.
A child who is in grade 7 is the same as a child who was in class 8 finishing KCPE, because you finished
KPSEA.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Same class. Now, they've gone through 844 and written KCPE. This has finished and written KPSEA. What is the difference in learning and the capability? Because we have examples in the same time of these two. How can we see that this child who has finished 844 in the KCPA examinations after that year, and this child who has finished grade 6 now going to grade 7, what's the difference? Because the different curriculums have been applied to the two?
The difference is that one, the CBC child is now going to exploration. Because if you understand
not
CBC,
where they are going. Not
Yeah.
where they are going. What they have achieved.
What has been achieved as of
Not
that
where
point?
they are going. What has been achieved from January to November in CBC for this child who is in class 6, and January to November to this class 8 student who has finished KCPE? The difference between the two.
the structures are different. Now,
Now, let me also ask another question. As we talk about the implementation of CBC, let's use between private and public institutions. It is obvious, it is common knowledge that private institutions are well prepared than public institutions. Yet when you talk about education, it is a right that is guaranteed. Therefore, the government must ensure that every child in the Republic has access to quality education. But here is a question where these two parameters, one seems to be favored than the other. Yet the Constitution is there as an equality in making sure that we are all on the same level. Therefore, as we talk about implementation, and children are not equal based off where they study, how is CBC going to be achieved with equality as a marker?
it will be very hard to be achieved
Yep.
for now, but with time.
Okay.
With time.
And I think this brings us back to one of the fundamental
and
issues.
with those also so many changes in governments.
Yeah.
You know, there are other governments that may come in place. We also know that CBC is new,
Yes.
CBC is evolving, and
Yeah.
CBC is under construction.
Yeah.
It is still under construction. And being very positive, I think it will work. And we need to focus on where we are going, not basically where we're coming from. Because even our eyes, both of our eyes are placed in front so that we can see where we are going. So if we can put all that energy and cease from having this negative energy, and we focus on trying to see the good things in the CBC, as you alluded that there are good things, it's a good system, and we join hands as Kenyans and try to talk to the government. We have many people advocating for those things we are talking about as a country. I think we can change. The CBC can be a very good thing, and it is possible. I believe it is possible.
You know, this particular matter of the CBC, this isn't a faith-based initiative.
Yes, yeah.
It's a practicum. It is something that requires certain structures. It's something that requires certain set activities that must be achieved within the structure. There must be timelines to it, bearing in mind that we have lives of young Kenyans at stake in everything that we are doing. Now, what you refer to as negativity is what we refer to as contribution to the discussion, so that those who are seeking to implement it understand how it is that people think and feel about it and what it is they know. This discussion we're having is what should have been had long before.
Before anybody opened their mouth to
Yes.
say that we changed the curriculum.
Yes, because then the discussions would have been had, so when the implementation came about, one would be clear about what one is doing. But we're having it now because it wasn't had adequately before.
Yes.
See, you introduce something new, essentially you're trying to replace what people know. They will be asking, wait, I went through a system, it seemed to work for me. Maybe I have other children who went through the other system, it seemed to work for them. So this new system, how is, you always start from the known.
And you like what you know.
Yes.
That's just human nature.
Change.
It is the thing you know that you like.
You have to be informed and convinced about change before you accept it.
Yes.
Yes, you can't be told change. Your knee-jerk reaction will be to resist because
Why?
you don't know.
Yes. I agree with you. That is what failed. The government failed in that area. But now, where we are standing, I'm looking at it. How can we salvage the situation? That's why we try to.
Actually, we can't. We can't.
How? We can't.
No, we can't. Only the government can do something. We actually can't, because if, for instance, something as simple as the government saying there is release 16 billion to build new classes, and we know that with this system, right now we don't have Form 1 students, don't we?
Yes.
Right. So we do have classes that are empty. Quite simple, really. What were we building new classes for when we already have classes that exist? Classes that people could go into. So even if you're thinking of building, you'd be thinking of building to supplement what already exists. You're talking about teachers who would teach in the science subjects. Primary schools don't have them, and if they do in few numbers, secondary schools do. These teachers were going to teach for months if they were there. It was not complicated because many secondary schools are near primary schools. I'm simply saying there are a lot of things that are happening with this particular system that seemed, if you look at the working, to guarantee that it won't work, whereas it could work.
Yes.
And go ahead.
And there was no public participation. You know, when you talk about public participation, it is not what is on paper, but we talk about quality and meaningful public participation where each and every individual is given an opportunity to speak, to help inform future decisions. That never happened. Parents were told CBC is here. Dive in. There are sharks, there are whales. Find your way out.
Now, my question is now, what do we do from here? We need to think and help our Kenyans. We talk to the government, we tell them this is not going right. They will get our message so that we salvage the situation.
I agree with that, and I think the conversations need to happen, and I think we need to continually point them out. If it is not working, it's not working, no matter how we try to color it. So maybe you can add implementer in terms of your ambassador role as well. CBC ambassador and hopeful implementer of some of these things. I think it's important that we do. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Wabogo Wakamau, CBC ambassador, and we've had a conversation about that this morning. The conversations must continue. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.